here. Okay, we are back. Apparently, we got kicked off for showing the trailer. But let me tell you something. August 2nd, okay? August 2nd is the next Warner Brothers earnings call, which means it's also shareholder meeting coming up. And I'm going to demand some fucking reparations here because you can't say, oh, that it's taken down by HBO Entertainment when I fucking own stock in the company. Okay. Let me explain how this works. Okay.
Yeah.
The employees of Warner Brothers work for David Zaslav, their CEO. Now, who's the CEO work for?
The people.
The fucking shareholders.
Yeah,
the people who own the company. Okay.
Right.
So I'm a shareholder, damn it. And I feel like I should be allowed to share this content as it is mine. It's the way it works.
It's even worse is the fact that the video itself is not on the channel. So they just like totally removed it. Which is very frustrating.
That's okay. I can pull it from StreamYard and then we can.
Yeah.
Good.
We just paste over top of the trailer. That's wild. That's wild. I've never had that happen before.
I'm emailing David Zaslav right now.
It's like, hey man, we're hyping this show.
Hey,
up,
let me tell you something, buddy. I own,
You think they're sitting there right now? They had a couple White Claws and they're like, shut these guys down.
They think the cold open's gonna be brand. Boop.
You making fun of? Yeah, exactly. Same thing happened to David Lightbringer. Whoa. Well, I mean, it's David, so you know what I mean.
Hey,
I'm kidding.
Listen here, buddy. I own
David hit us up, by the way. I would love to chat.
Let me tell you something. I own about 1,500 shares. Okay, and I feel like I should be allowed to fucking use this content if I fucking want to.
1,500.
I agree.
Trying to do some calculations.
Let's try to do the math here now. Like,
right. How much you got?
He's an English teacher. Let's not get carried away.
Yes.
Come on.
Oh, no, seriously. Oh my
Leave the
gosh.
stem.
Right now the stock's down, so it's not as much as it used to be. But
yeah, it's free promo, and it's so out of touch with reality, because while we are in the niche of a niche and being on YouTube and all these things, we are the ones that drive the lifeblood of the show and retweet and do these things. So it is very frustrating when we run into things like this.
Yeah, and you wonder too. Like, I'm always just like, they set something up, and then this is a protocol that they've flagged and set up or whatever, and there's really no human behind it or whatever. But it is frustrating. It's sort of like, who set that up? I mean, what's the right? What's the deal? Why set that up to begin with? I mean, unless they put like I know sometimes they put like a threshold, like a certain day, after.
I understand that, but I don't understand us sitting here talking on a stream.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of silly.
Let me tell you, every penny that I make, I'll fucking bend the knee. I'm just gonna put only on to fucking buying more Warner Brothers stock, and eventually I'll just own enough. Here's the deal. Let's start a Kickstarter. Okay. Let's just start a Kickstarter so I can buy more, so I can just accumulate more stock. Yeah. And then I can buy the fucking company, and then I can do whatever I want. Some guy actually bought like $40,000 worth of Nintendo stock a few weeks ago so that he could go to the shareholder meeting and like demand answers on why they haven't made a new F-Zero game, which is this like video game, it's like whatever. And he's like, you guys haven't made an F-Zero game in like 16 years. Why? But he bought, that's how it works. That's how you can do it.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Kira has a question. She says, so you're saying the houses are already established, right? So do you think we'll see early Lannisters start? Yeah, in as early as the show is, at least. But the Starks have been around for a while at this point, obviously. And we will see them because they're actually swearing fealty in the first teaser we got. Right. They go around through the houses. So, yeah, we are going to see members of the houses, maybe even...
Oh, the Lannisters? Get them out of here. Get them out of here.
Well... So we know we're going to see Rickard Stark, because an older Rickard Stark, obviously, because that's in the original trailer,
yeah.
Well, you know what would be what I think is cool. I mean, I know the houses will all be there, whatever. But when I was looking through the trailer and there were guys there with different sigils and stuff I didn't know, and I was like, now hold on a second, who are all these people, right? And you go try to figure out the different houses. So I actually like that they might bring in an underdog house, right? Just sort of showing up. And I mean, Sir Kristen Cole himself is actually kind of an underdog.
For sure.
You know, which is cool, which is why people love him. But I love the idea that you build a world and then as you're building that, you have your major houses, the big ones, the ones that really matter. But then you're rooting for, because that's me. That's me. Like Beric Dondarrion, like that name just stood out to me in the series, and I was like, who is this guy? Like Eddard Stark is looking for men of honor, right? He's looking for men of honor there in the beginning, and he calls upon them to do so. Like they're fulfilling the king's final, or the hand of the king's wishes there and stuff like that. And it's just like, who is this guy? And who, the Lightning Lord, you know what I mean? So I'm looking for a guy like that who comes in and is more of like a champion of the people. You know what I mean? Like The Rock.
I mean, I also wonder, will we see House Rain?
Oh, that would be kind of cool,
Possibly.
right? So you just talked with the Lannisters there. I mean, that would be really.
I would bark out. Like that would be a big moment just for my own personal nerdom. I'd be pretty much in on that.
Yeah, that would be
just
really
seeing the High Towers is amazing, and the Corlys Velaryon and everything. It's just wild. It's wild. I never thought I'd see this.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's like we don't really the Valyrian. We're already blessed in that we have the High Towers being in this capacity, and then we have House Velaryon and whatever. Which we brought up Aegon's Conquest. That's the other interesting element, is that you have all those houses that went extinct. Like, as they go back and things change, and the identity of the realm changes so much. I think that's cool. That's a really cool element that's going to show up in this show.
Real quick here, I do think that the episode will still we just did will still actually hit YouTube, like how your live replays do. I think it'll just stop abruptly at the very end.
Okay, good. I just didn't see it on the channel, so I was like, concerned.
Well, because a live stream takes like a day to sort of reappear.
Yeah, they process it as a normal video.
They process it. I will cut it up into smaller segments anyway.
Yeah, actually, I see it, and I see it now. That's good.
Yeah. So
good.
Kind of ridiculous. Let me say this. Hey, when when it was owned by AT&T, John Stanky never did this shit. All right. So maybe it's time to go back. Okay. Maybe it's just like the North. Maybe you don't need fucking independence. Okay.
Whoa. Whoa.
maybe not going to be part of the
well, hey, I think it's this is an early indication that I don't know if Jimmy was around for this time, but Sir Matt himself over there caught the attention of the New York Times once upon a time. The days are coming back. I can hear the bells ringing, and we're on our way back.
The glass candles have been candles have been lit.
They've been lit, bro. I mean,
it's lit. No doubt.
It is lit up in here.
Do you think we'll see glass? Do you think are the glass candles burning right now?
Dude,
they would be. They are in the Citadel, right?
I'll tell you right now.
Magic still exists.
Absolutely. I think. Let's talk about something interesting. You can clip that. We can make this a video as well. Just different things to talk about later on the channel. Get some comments, because there is like the Citadel is there. I mean, the High Towers have the backing. I said it early, but I mean they have the backing of Old Town and the Citadel, and the Targaryens. It's sort of like we put up with it because they have dragons, right? We like they sort of adopted the Seven and the Faith and so on, but there's an issue going on, and there's this whole thing that with the plot about poisoning the dragons and possibly, helping them, finding a way to get them to fight amongst themselves, right? And maybe become extinct or just whittle them down. I think there's going to be all sorts of that kind of stuff happening. Matt was talking about glass candles, and I think we're going to have elements of mysticism mixed in with some more pragmatic stuff from the Citadel, and I just feel like it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And House Baratheon should show up here at some point, which is going to be pretty legit. I don't think it's Rogar at this point, though. I think it's Bormund.
Yes,
right?
Because they go to
Jaehaerys hand was Rogar. That was.
Oh, okay. So because in the trailer we just saw he was acting that Baratheon is at the tournament, because I think it's the tournament. You can see his the stag.
Oh yeah, they're definitely in the show. Yeah. I'm just trying to think. I think it's Bormund. I think it's Rogar's eldest son was Bormund. I might be wrong, but I'm just pumped to see some Baratheons. Give me some Baratheon blood.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be a cool one to see for sure. So yeah, it's just
here's a question for you guys. Now that we've sort of moved it, and I guess this will probably end up going on the podcast as well, just as part 2 of the discussion.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think the next 2 months is going to look like when you have Game of Thrones coming back, going up in the same week as Rings of Power?
I think both can exist and be successful in today's age. I fully expect House of the Dragon to beat it out. And that's why right there. Because I think more people are putting eyes on HBO. HBO Max is the only streaming service last quarter that grew.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
And Amazon Prime, they do have shows, and I do think that their name brand recognition, I mean, obviously Prime's recognizable, but like Prime Video, I do think it's starting to get a lot better because of The Boys. I mean, I expect a lot of people to watch Rings of Power.
Can you get Prime Video by itself?
No, I don't think so.
I might be wrong. Well, I'm going to look at that, because otherwise, because it's like when I think of Amazon Prime, like, even though I've now just watched The Boys and I freaking love it, by the way, I'm in love with that show. Like when I think of Amazon Prime, I think about like, well, yeah, my, whatever, my new toothbrush or whatever I just bought, it's going to show up in like a day.
2 seconds. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think Prime Video is starting to get a little bit of some traction in the streaming wars. The one weird thing, and HBO has done a really nice job of this for not being technically a merchandising company, is like, I thought, especially with the Wheel of Time show, that Prime would have a lot more like deals. Like, hey, watch this episode and get this exclusive Funko Pop, you know what I mean? And get it shipped to your door. They did none of that. Like, I know that they had products, but it wasn't as pushed as I thought. So I don't know. I think HBO is
you
really
can do
smart.
Prime Video by itself, by the way.
You can't?
You can.
Fair enough. Oh, you can. Okay. Interesting.
You can. It's like, well, this is an old article, 2016. I don't know. I've had Amazon Prime since like 2012, so it's like,
Yeah, I think that HBO being first to market's massive, and they're going to be out ahead. And here's the thing: if the first 2 episodes of House of the Dragon are absolute stunners, like 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10s,
right?
It doesn't matter if the Rings of Power debute's awesome.
Yeah. The other thing, and we were and this is something we talked about during Wheel of Time, was we said one of the things we were worried about was that Wheel of Time released, and I think this is going to be the same for Rings of Power, is technically they're like, oh, it releases on Friday, but it actually released like Thursday. Or they released like Friday midnight globally, which is like, for me, it was like 4 o'clock. And Ez was, I think it was like 7, right? 7 for you would have. So the only thing I see that, if that's the same thing, is Wheel of Time released, and like I think it was November was when it started.
Yeah.
And the problem I think Rings of Power has is that you're going to be releasing on a Thursday night during the opening of the NFL season, as opposed to like Wheel of Time coming out like, okay, like in the middle to like, second or like, whatever, second, third or whatever of the NFL season. Like, that's one of the things I think House of the Dragon is going to struggle with towards the end as well, is that it's going to be releasing on Sundays during the NFL season, but thankfully it will already have had a handful of episodes out. But Lord of the Rings, you're going to be releasing on Thursday night, like, right.
Yeah, I think with streaming
of the NFL season.
I think with streaming, it matters a little bit less, but it still matters for sure. You see it across any other program, right? Like, for instance, like pro wrestling always does very poorly during the NFL season or the NBA finals or whatever it might be. An interesting note is that House of the Dragon is actually going to end after Rings of Power as well, which I didn't know.
Oh, really?
So that's interesting.
So it's 2 episodes longer, or
yeah. And as someone who has their hand on the book community's pulse, I have to tell you guys, the general vibe for Rings of Power is not positive. And I don't agree with it. I actually thought the trailer looked good. I'm optimistic. I hope it does well. I really do.
Yeah.
The House of the Dragon trailers and the vibe, very positive, which I'm surprised by, if I'm being honest.
Right. Can I say too, just real quickly, the in the Tolkien community, it is weird. Like those creators have now been trying to bring in content. They've actually been releasing images and tidbits through like TikTok content creators, people on Twitter, podcasters.
Yeah.
They're trying to really tap into the fan base or whatever, which does then show you that like HBO House, they don't have to do that. They don't have to they're not. It's a different type of approach and style because there was so much backlash for some reason at that Super Bowl trailer. Just in general, the handling of it or whatever. So it's odd. I still think though, as much as people like to bicker and kind of think like there's some negative energy, everybody's going to go line up and watch that bad boy. I mean, every single brother, it's going to have numbers
rings of power.
Yeah. I don't care what people say. They're going to go see it just to go diss on it. If they, whatever the thing, like
that's
they're
right.
Gonna,
Yeah. I just worry about, so House of the Dragon, there is going to be competition is I guess the thing. I'm just wondering how it will affect it, because if you go back and you look at these past few months, it's like one show is going to get sort of buried. Right. And now that everybody's got all these big shows that are coming up, like, I don't know whose bright idea it was at Disney to release Miss Marvel, which actually on Rotten Tomatoes is the best reviewed MCU show ever.
My friends love it.
I watched the first episode. I really liked it. The second one, I was like, whatever. And then I ended up actually liking it. And to be honest, Miss Marvel is a character, and I'm a little more into comic books and stuff like that, I can't stand. I think she's annoying. She's just like, it's like a kid. She's more of a teenager. I don't like Captain Marvel. It's like, Jesus, whatever. But I actually really liked the show more than I liked the character from other media sources, but it didn't do well in terms of streaming numbers like initially, because it was one going up against Kenobi on its own platform. Then it's a superhero show going up against The Boys and Umbrella Academy, and then Stranger Things. And it was like, who decided you should do this? But
yeah,
right now, House of the Dragon, at least it's starting early, but it's going to be going up against Andor, the Star Wars show, Lord of the Rings, another fantasy thing as well.
Property, yeah. I do think, and Edmonds mentioned this in chat, the trailer views, likes, in the comments, if you look at impressions wise, House of the Dragon is, it's actually kind of ridiculous how well it's doing. I think the trailer now, if you combine Twitter and YouTube, has like 17 million views within 24 hours, which is really great. And the trailer, the teaser did even better. I do believe both shows can exist, because for instance, the Wheel of Time show, in my opinion, was a pretty debut, but it still did record numbers for Prime at the time. And just signed on for season 3. So I don't necessarily think it's like sink or swim, but you are right that there will be a clear winner at the end of it. There is a chance that both are just amazing, and like maybe they battle it out at the
I kind of think that
Emmys. That would be dope, right?
Well, I think there's gonna be so much talk and chatter, and actually my buddy Lane, shout out to him, he texted me the other day. He said he just kind of laughed because we run Up Talk and Tolkien, our little podcast. He's like it just dawned on him, because I think he was watching something that Matt and I did, like a podcast came up on his feed, and we're talking about
She-Hulk as well.
Yeah, we're talking about the time in which House of Dragon is coming out, and so he was like, "Holy crap!" He's like, "Nerds are just going to be battling nerds." It's just going to be nerds, people coming out defending their fandoms and like, like, no, it's better. It's like just a bunch of nerds going at it, and it's just like that's just going to create all this energy and all this hype. George actually even said in his not a blog post, he was like, somebody quoted him trying to say that he was dissing on the Rings of Power thing. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "I'm like Tolkien inspired my work and stuff." He's like, "I want that. I'm going to be watching." It's like,
yeah.
So,
I think one of the advantages that Game of Thrones will have, or House of the Dragon will have over Lord of the Rings as well, is while this is about characters that the mainstream audience isn't going to know, the look and feel of it being about the Targaryens and it's going to have dragons is going to feel much similar to what they remember than Rings of Power is. Because even if you just go from the Lord of the Rings trilogy to the Hobbit trilogy, while Gandalf and like the Ring and Sauron are all there, the key story of both the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings is the hobbits. Like it is like what makes the story what it is. It's Frodo. It is Frodo and Bilbo.
It's an unexpected journey.
When you pull that out, it's gonna feel a lot different to people.
Yeah.
And I think that could be something that is helpful to House of the Dragon because it's just going to be easier and it's not going to seem as like, what is it going on here? As opposed to where Lord of the Rings, not that Lord of the Rings still won't be successful, but I just think because of the fact that they're releasing like against each other.
Yeah. Another thing is we have to think about age brackets and Game of Thrones when it released. A lot of people will have grown up in that being their first like real serious television show growing up. Like I think that there is like a generational thing here.
Yes.
And a lot of the Lord of the Rings fans are getting old, right? And it's kind of the get off my lawn moments. Like I remember the original trilogy, then they did The Hobbit. Like I think that might play a little bit into the excitement levels as well. And I think Rob in the chat had a really good point talking about how Game of Thrones has the bulk of fans that encountered the series through video, whereas Lord of the Rings had existed for decades as a book and people knew the books. And I really, really like that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a great point by Rob.
Hey, shout out to Rob, by the way.
Lord Rob.
Lord Rob's our buddy.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. It actually is a really good point, though, that there's because that's what people, I mean, it's 2 points, right? So it's like you have this large book community where it's all about the books, Silmarillion, the whole thing, and then people became massive fans of the movies and the films. And then Matt's point was, well, this looks a lot different too. Mm-hmm. And that's also not necessarily based in the books. The people were hoping there would be, I mean, it is. Don't get me wrong. It's like there's the appendices and there's all that kind of stuff happening or whatever. But let me give you, can I give you one speculation that I think is going to happen in Rings of Power?
Please.
The Meteor Man that we see, the guy who shows up in the meteor, there's a meteor shooting down.
It's Tom Bombadil.
Well, people are talking about this as a Tom Bombadil.
I'd shit.
They think it's either him or a blue wizard, one of the 2 blue wizards showing up. And that the other comment, there'll be another one, maybe, possibly. But the little hobbit creature is the one reaching out, and it looks like a wizard reaching out, helping this little hobbit, like Harefoot, whatever they want to call him. But they're calling, people are saying Meteor Man is a blue wizard.
Holy
confirmed.
shit.
So,
That would be cool.
I would lose my mind about that. I'd like love the wizard. So like there, but is that bait? There is no text for that. So to Rob's point and to Matt's point and stuff, it's like, yeah, Tolkien fans are like, wait a second, you're just making up stories. You can't do that.
Can I say something really quick here?
Yeah.
You explaining why this is just for the people who don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Because I have not read any of the appendices or whatever.
Yeah.
I've literally only read The Hobbit.
Right.
But I've seen the Lord of the Rings movies a million times, and they're freaking fantastic.
Oh yeah.
You explaining why a blue wizard right there is going to be cool. I have no idea why a blue wizard is
cool.
Important. Is cool. So
how dare you?
How dare you? Man?
Well, exactly. But I guess like I don't know. So the one thing I feel about House of the Dragon is that like what made Game of Thrones. Even I would say comparing it, even if you just compare Game of Thrones to A Song of Ice and Fire, is A Song of Ice and Fire, the books, there is much more magic and mysticism, and winter is coming, and the White Walker is going to be a way more important deal. But what made Game of Thrones work so well was the human element of political drama, which we're going to have here. And I think that's going to be the thing that's just, it's so much easier for people to connect to.
Well, and to be fair, I mentioned the blue wizard because I think it's cool because I'm
well, I know. I'm not trying to diss I'm just like,
I know. But I just wanted to say though, what the tie you're talking about, like the similarity between Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon being that political sort of backdrop or whatever, what they're going to do, what they're trying to do, because it is cool to analyze it, is Elrond,
like
Galadriel,
were any of them alive? Are they alive during that?
Yeah, apparently they are alive. See, this thing is there's just like second age gap where literally it's like a list of bullet points. It's like a list of kings. There's nothing really to adapt. That's the problem Tolkien fans are having. They're like, what are you adapting? And it's just like this crazy thing. So it's
not
Gandalf isn't alive during this time, right?
He is alive, but he's probably not. He's probably in Valinor. And he's probably not been sent to Middle Earth at this time. Like they think the theory is that the blue wizards came first. Maybe I love that we're restricted it. No,
it's great. It's great.
Yeah. But it's like it's important. I think it is because it is a cool. Okay, another example would be like Matt and I talk about Star Wars sometimes. They did this whole series called The High Republic, and Matt and I are like, all right, how do you get people invested in that? Where they're like, Yoda's still alive. You know what I mean? They do that thing where they're like, this guy is still over there. Still alive.
Right.
So now we're all in, and that's what you're saying. The Targaryens. I mean, that's the easy pull for House of Dragon is Westeros. It's King's Landing, and it is actually the Targaryens. So it's an easier sell. I think sometimes it's
right.
Well, and George even said this in his Not a Blog. He said, guys, I don't think I'm going up against Tolkien. Like he's like, I am a competitive person, so of course I want to do well. He's like, but both of these shows can exist. Because I mean, I'll be honest, even hearing you talk about it, as like, I'm kind of fired up. Like, that sounds kind of cool.
I know it like now, some wizard lore.
Now, it could be a great fantasy show. Doesn't mean it's going to be a great Tolkien show.
Right.
Whatever that might be. But I think Matt has it down pat here. I mean, it's about the Targaryen dynasty, which we know the levity of that. Right. And we know that, where it ends up too, which to some people is a bad thing. But I just think that Westeros itself is so messy and dirty, and people just love that. They love a good drama, especially a family drama.
Right.
Yep.
And the only thing, in fact, I don't think the competition is necessarily Rings of Power. I think the competition is Succession on its own network, because Succession has filled the gap of dialogue-heavy family drama that Game of Thrones left over, and it cleaned up at the Emmys for nominations. And if you haven't seen it, it is a tier 1 show. I mean,
Well,
insanely good.
Well, that's been HBO's thing, is the HBO always has that next big show, and they thought it was going to be Westworld.
Yes, and it was for season 1. Season 1 was huge and great. And then it sucked.
But and somebody left a great comment here too, and actually I want to nail it back here to Star Wars a little bit. Actually, they said the showrunner said the Targaryens are the Jedi at Westeros, and they are. And I think that's one of the things. One of the other things is that we're in the same place. Like we're like, isn't that the courtyard where we said in our last stream before it got shut down? Isn't that the courtyard that was painted that Cersei's like, because it could be not the one in King's Landing, but it's the Iron Throne. Like, yes, the Targaryens have it done up differently, which is a little more book accurate. But it's like we know what the Iron Throne is. We know what Dragonstone looks like. We know what this looks like, and that's one of the things. It's kind of like Star Wars, where they're like, "Why do they always go back to Tatooine?" Well, because it's like home base.
I mean, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Like even in the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies. Yes. When we went to the Shire, it was like, oh man, we're back. Like
we're back. And that is, I admit, like that is the tough part to sell on that show, is like there are no hobbits, there's no Shire necessarily. Like it's gonna be
Jurassic World did this so well. And I think it's actually the second best Jurassic Park movie. But in Jurassic World, when they go to Jurassic Park, and it's like playing the soft music a little bit, and it's like, dude, we're back. Like they did it in such a way, but this is like we're living inside the world. It's not even just like a thing. So it's just that immediate connection. Like it makes it so much easier. It's why another reason I think they're just gonna keep with the Game of Thrones theme. Now it could be like different instruments and stuff like that, but I think it's gonna be the same thing.
Yeah, or like Jimmy was saying, like this feels older. Like they could make a song feel older. I don't like just with some stuff, but I mean, because we're like breaking down what it is that brings us back. We're talking about Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. We're talking about like all these things. It's like so cool to think about what's taking us back and getting those feels.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Westeros, books show the whole thing, is that it's very cathartic, and that is such an odd feeling to describe to someone. And I struggle sometimes whenever people ask me like why it's still my favorite. I've read hundreds of books, and it's still my favorite books of all time. I've written books that are, in my opinion, technically better, but like they're my favorites, right? And it's just so cathartic to see the Iron Throne and to see Rhaenyra and knowing like what's going to happen. It's just like, I don't know. There's something about it, and it's really hard to put my finger on, and it's such an odd emotion to go through. But I feel like the shows that I've always loved the most happen to be those. And I think that one of the things that can really set this apart from Rings of Power is that Rings of Power is coming from a lineage of obviously books, but a movie trilogy. We don't know what this looks like as a television show. Does that world even work as a television show? And we're talking from a strictly technical show running standpoint. HBO's already done it. HBO's already had this. They have all the props. They have all these things. We know they can run a competent TV show for at least a few seasons. So to me, it's just like, I think there's less question marks around House of the Dragon.
Very true.
And this is big. That's another thing. Like, we'll have to see what happens when the show comes out. Like, I don't think it's going to be bunk, but like if it is, I think this would kill Westeros. Like, I think this would be the end. And I think Miguel and Ryan probably know that.
I don't think so. I
don't mean that it's dead. They won't make more stuff, but a lot of people will be done.
Oh, it would turn people off. I still don't know about that though, because it's let's say it flops hard. I think, a few years later you could redo something, because like just other franchises that have gone through stuff. So like, and I haven't really seen a lot of it. I just study like, history and all this stuff. Like Star Trek, for example. You have the original Star Trek. It was great, big deal. They did all those movies. Then they came out with Next Generation, which is like the king of Star Trek. Then it was like, okay, we're going to stretch it out. We're going to do like Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise. And they didn't do so well. And then like a handful of years go by and J.J. Abrams comes in and redoes the movies, and they're freaking amazing movies. And Star Trek's back, and it's got, TV series and everything now. So
there's certainly a path to redemption.
Right.
And for how much they paid for all of the rights from George and the contract he signed,
I think Lord of the Rings is much more in danger than Game of Thrones.
Yes, but I would say the only reason why it's more in danger is because The Hobbit was a flop, right? So like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
The Hobbit movies were okay, yeah, but they weren't. They definitely
people are way too hard on those movies, in my opinion. There's problems, but like, guys, name 5 other amazing fantasy movies.
Well, I would say that actually you're in the same boat, because it's like Game of Thrones is the most award-winning television show in history, and
that's right.
And Return of the King has like 13 Academy Awards. It's tied for it's like Return of the King, Titanic, and like Ben-Hur are like all have like 13 Academy Awards. Like nothing else is even close.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, the real thing though is none of us sitting here think that it's gonna flop. I mean, I would be shocked.
No.
I guess
No.
It's a hypothetical, because it's like it looks so good, it feels so good.
Right.
As Jimmy was talking, like the feels that you get, you can't really put your finger on it, but there's something about it that is bringing you. It's just got us already captured, and we've been hearing from Twitter, social media, in the chat, just looking around social media, on the trailer itself. Like you look at the comments and likes, and it's like people are locked back in. And as we said, it's not feeling the same for the other production.
Right here. Hey, right here. Comment. I think if this flops, the Jon Snow show will bring people back. Yeah. And that's coming down the pipe. And it's like, that might be even better.
Yeah.
Than House of the Dragon.
Which is crazy.
That sounds like one of those $40 million movie, maybe show things that you were talking about, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, see, I don't know about that, because I think that's your way to expand.
I feel like it's going to be a character study. Personally, because
I don't know. The Snow Show is so intriguing only because it's only the way it was created is almost more intriguing to me. If HBO had gone to Kit Harington and said, "Hey, we want to do a Jon Snow show. Like, here's what we're thinking." But it was the other way around, and we did the math, and it was clearly like something he had to have been like sort of planning out when he was like in rehab, like from depression, of like alcoholism and like COVID. I don't know, man. I think Jon Snow is going to be like Kit Harington's like life thing. That's going to be like his character he plays like his entire life.
I mean, I'll be excited to see it. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see if it.
No, I think it's gonna be freaking amazing. Like I think it's like the fact that they're even doing it is you can now expand Game of Thrones. I mean, you can like it's endless. It is totally like endless.
Yeah,
possibilities.
What it symbolizes is insane.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that's why I'm so like, maybe not even optimistic, but like it intrigues me so much. Is like to think that we're talking about like after is wild to me.
Right.
So so whenever I think I'm people know this about me, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and all I can think about, like, we don't really talk about it on the Hyperspace Hangout, Matt, much, but I'm like, we haven't talked about this at all, but post Rey. I mean, like when I go to bed at night, I'm thinking about like what goes beyond. And so with the Song of Ice and Fire, we're still thinking about Winds of Winter. We'll still, think about those things. And they drop, hey, we have a sequel show. It's like I didn't even know that it was on the table. I mean, I didn't know that was an option here. So
right.
Like it's so cool to think about.
Ted Lasso.
Do you think will they ever do a post Lord of the Rings?
Fuck.
If Rings of Power succeeds, you're damn right they will.
You think so? The crazy thing? So actually,
the sequels.
Interesting discussion here. Like they're making Jordan's going to get in the chat here in a second. He's a big Middle Earth guy, but it's like there's nothing necessarily beyond it. There's a little bit of Hobbit lore with them becoming sheriffs and so on and stuff like that.
Because you could bring all those actors back.
It's great. Did they go on another adventure? Like nothing is written, but that's the other thing is they're making up dialogue between Elrond and Galadriel and all these other characters. Like they have to full out make that up. You're not pulling from any book where they all discussed and talked about how to come together and beat.
Because there's a lot of talk right now that they may do post Wheel of Time.
Oh, what?
I will thoroughly.
It's people have asked Brandon Sanderson because it's like, it's one thing when it's like one of the things too. It's like in the event that something happens with Gurr, unfortunately, knock on wood, nothing does. But if he doesn't finish it, and it does have to be a Robert Jordan situation where he hands it off to somebody. Yeah. Which now he alluded to that a little bit ago.
Yes, he did.
Jimmy and I did a chat about that where he said he had a buddy of his who passed away. And he's like, I hope he could hand it off. So if George were to ever hand it off and then it gets in the hands of somebody else, like the other thing is if he sells the rights or anything too, like
right.
Yeah, it also ultimately gets to make the decision.
Right. It all sort of depends on who owns like the rights, because I think Warner Brothers still owns the movie rights to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, having the author still around and in this decision is the best thing to say. Yeah, we can go forward with something with the Jon Snow show or go beyond what my ending was. With the Wheel of Time thing, what's interesting, Brandon was a part of this, had the notes. Harriet is there. You could ordain and bless that and say, yeah, let's go run a
just have him have his.
I mean, just start in another time, another coming of the dragon or whatever. Who knows?
Right.
I mean, this time it's a female. I mean, let's go. Like, write it up. People are gonna lose their mind.
Like, no, we do not need more. The ending is perfect. That's what you think though, and then but what if you do something else that makes it better, or it's like Star Wars, for example, right? Yeah. Like, okay, well, if you told me that the sequels didn't happen, and like, okay, well, Star Wars does end on a perfect note, but I can erase the sequels from my mind and go watch The Mandalorian. I'm like, well, I don't know, man, because the story that takes place a few years after Return of the Jedi is freaking sick.
Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, it comes down to the story you're going to tell and everything. I mean, Lord of the Rings.
Shot said, let's create a good TV show first.
Oh, boy.
Well, I don't know. We just watched that Wheel of Time behind
that shit out of here.
I got to say, I was excited. Hey, but you never know. I mean, a lot of shows can improve very much in a season 2. I actually think Lord of the Rings might be the case. I think season 1 for Lord of the Rings is going to look beautiful, but it's going to be rough. And then I think season 2 will really pick it up, because just comparing it to other Amazon shows, I've seen like episodes of Marvelous Miss Maisel, just because it's like Teresa watches it, and it's like every new season when it comes out, like she's got it on, and I'm like, it seems better. But I just blitzed through all of The Boys, and I was like, each season got progressed. I mean, season 3 is like a 10 out of 10 season. I mean, it's absolutely amazing.
Well, one of the things about Rings of Power, I think it goes against it though. If Rings of Power comes out and House of the Dragon like dominates, people like aren't interested, I don't think Amazon would do a season 2 because it costs so much money. Like I know he has a ton, but if it gets like a 1 out of 10 on IMDb.
Amazon though is hard to. Amazon's a little different though, because $500 million to Disney is a lot of money.
Right.
$500 million to Amazon is like, whatever.
So
Like,
is
I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
I just want to go on record here on July 21st, just saying it won't shock me at all if the Rings of Power show just blows people's minds. It really won't
Right.
actually be like I
As
know the
I am
fandom.
more, I think you're right. I actually am more. I'd put more money on it being good than bad.
Yeah, and I
Right.
think you're right. I mean, yeah, obviously if you got a 1 out of whatever, yeah, we'd be done with it. But like maybe, I mean, it would be you get
Right.
through 2 seasons. But like I kind of have a weird feeling that you know how we are, Matt, with like Andor. We're like, I don't know, we're gonna go watch it, sort of thing. I kind of feel like some people are reading some of this and they're like, is it? It sounds like it's already got some negative energy, and then it's gonna come out. Critics are gonna review it. People are gonna be like, let's go take a gander. And I think it actually won't hurt House of the Dragon at all. But I think it
No.
will. I actually think House of the Dragon going. I mean, people being interested
I
in
feel
some fantasy talk
I
help it. Maybe I don't know.
I feel much better for House of the Dragon that it is coming out before
Mhm.
and finishing after. So it
Yeah.
gets its ending all to itself, and it gets its opening all to itself, and its opening takes place like 2 weeks before the NFL.
There's also
I-
there's a lot of people who don't like Lord of the Rings but like Game of Thrones and vice versa. So like
Yeah,
I think
that's
that
true.
there's enough fandom for each to be massive hits. But I'm gonna be honest, like, and I'm a fantasy nerd. We're gonna discuss Rings of Power on my channel, and I'm gonna be coming on here to do House of the Dragon. It's gonna be great doing so many collaborations. But like, if I'm being honest, like, that's cool that Rings of Power is coming out, but I'm more hyped for House of the Dragon. Like, I can't,
right.
I
I
can't
am
really
too.
think about anything else right
You
now.
know,
Like,
you know what else? You know what else is actually helps House of the Dragon and hurts Lord of the Rings is Lord of the Rings comes out on basically Thursday/Friday. Like, I think a lot of people will watch it over the weekend, but House of the Dragon comes out Sunday night. So when people go to work on Monday,
Water
are they
cooler.
gonna which was like all of Game of Thrones. Like that was the whole deal with Game of Thrones was like people talking about it at work. So are people going to talk about the show that came out on Friday that's like a few days back in their mind, or are they going to talk about the show they watched last night?
Yeah,
which
that's
is
a good
House of the
point.
Dragon.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. I think the water cooler talk is actually like a massive thing.
Right.
Someone actually asked this, and I think this is a good question. It says, House of the Dragon seasons be like Westworld and do every 2 years or more, like in between?
Oh, in between season 1 and season 2, 2 years.
Maybe.
If they want to throw that sequel show in there, you know, give us something in between. You know,
it just depends on how they're. It's kind of hard to tell right now because, because now that Warner Brothers is operating under a new business, the way they used to do it on like when they were owned by AT&T was they would like fucking stupid. Like they would wait until like the show like came out and like ended to greenlight something, which is why like how did they not have Dune 2 like greenlit before the movie ever even came out? Like Dune was so obviously going to be a massive success
and a masterpiece.
And a masterpiece. Dune 1, when they redid it, it's so freaking good. But so then like the problem is that now you have to wait until Dune comes out, has like all of its success to say, hey, we've greenlit the second one. So like there's a lot of stuff that can't get started until you've greenlit it because there's budgets and you have to wait and all this, you know, like all this stuff. So hopefully under the new thing, like that's why you see like Amazon greenlit, you know, Wheel of Time season 3 when Wheel of Time 1's out. Okay, well now we have our like we know, hey, we can do all the way up to season 3, which totally changes how you're going to do season 2 because you're not worrying about fixing stuff in. So that fixes like scheduling. You can film some stuff that's going to be in season 3 during season 2, which alleviates some of the pressure. So hopefully a lot of that stuff gets changed under the new leadership at Warner Brothers, which means that it's just better. It gives you more options to do stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, to plan ahead and to have that assurance is really that is really cool. And Jordan actually mentioned something for the Rings of Power to that, saying they have 5 seasons. I think he said that it's been sort of already,
right.
You know, they've said make your 5-season show. Well, that helps you kind of right towards an end and start to know that, you know, the pressure is not off, but you still want it to perform well, get awards and do its thing. But you set things up for later seasons because you know you're going to have them. You know, the structure's there.
Yeah, you don't have to be like, oh man, like we got to squeeze this in, you know, because then you're you still are trying to make the best show possible, but it's like you don't force things hoping that like it'll pop the season to where you're good for the next. You can be like, well, this, then you can give things time to breathe and let arcs play out, and then it's better in the long run.
It's more it's more dramatic. It's more suspense building and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
You build up to better dramatic moments.
Right. Yeah, it's all exciting. I mean, it's kind of just a crazy thing to sit back and think about all the stuff we have coming out this fall, just over a month away. You know,
it's wild, man. Like
it is crazy because we're we're going to be live on your channel over here. I mean, it's just going to be like,
my concern level for House of the Dragon is like negative. I mean, like it's like I wasn't concerned about House of the Dragon before, and then like now the more I really start to think about the way everything is going to work out, because the last Lord of the Rings trailer did make me be like, oh, the show's going to be good.
Yeah,
but I think that show's more set up to fail, because I think that Friday release is stupid. I think that's really dumb, to be honest.
Yeah. I like that they are definitely changing some things up, but there's a lot of the existing recipe of possibly the greatest show ever. So that's good news. And also, like, this show's going to be at the worst for me, like fine, like good, because I have a bias.
All right.
We've seen enough trailers to know it's going to be freaking fire.
Right. Yeah, they've been very forthright with a lot of, like I said, dialogue and footage. It doesn't feel like they're rushing to get things out either, which is good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're ringing the bells, letting people know, hey, we're back, and this is the kind of stuff we're doing. It just looks so good, so beautiful. And
hey, great comment from Sweet Melissa here, saying, I'm really excited about the quote in EW about that House of the Dragon could keep going past the dance and cover more Targaryen kings. That's one of the great things about calling it House of the Dragon, is in theory you could actually run this all the way up to Game of Thrones. You could end with Rhaegar if you wanted, because it's like the advantage where it's not like the Dance of the Dragons. Then you're okay. Now we're tied in. like the Crown, for example, it jumps a lot. It jumps a lot of things. I mean, it tells like 50 years.
That's amazing. That's actually, because the stories from here on out are really good. There's a whole arc with Dorne that will take place later. Right. Then there's stuff with the Blackfires and so on. There's a lot of cool stuff you can
I would make it 10 seasons. I would do 2 seasons, or do 3 seasons on the Dance of the Dragons, 3 seasons on the Blackfire rebellions, and then you have the Dunk and Egg sideshow, which, or not like it's a sideshow, like, but it's a it's another show going on the side with it. And then boom, and then you finish with Egg is King, Summerhall, and freaking Robert's Rebellion.
Yeah, and there's so many things that you can connect back to the shows and whatnot. Like, that would be exciting. Someone was mentioning today, and I don't remember the details, so someone in chat can probably correct me, but there is a hammer that's featured in the Dying of the Dragons, I believe, and I think it's even in the trailer at one point. And the quote from Fire and Blood, I think, is that the hammer will be the undoing of the dragons. And I've never realized until today, where I saw it, the hammer being the undoing of the dragons foreshadows Robert Baratheon killing Rhaegar with his hammer.
Son,
like, oh my God. I was just like, dude, this is like all I need. Like, I don't need anything else.
Yeah, that's good.
It's so sick. Oh man,
yeah,
it's great.
Oh, wow, guys, this is just I'm overwhelmed.
Westeros is back, man. We're back in the prime. You always say, like, what if I could go back to my prime? The things I do different. Well, guess what?
Oh, yeah.
Here we are, boys.
Here we are. That's part of that promotional thing that George was talking about, which was like, we have brought it. It wasn't he that said it. It was someone else. Who said we brought the best. We took the best from Game of Thrones. We brought it in here. We made it better. Took it to the forge and shaped it up. So,
I mean, folks, I don't know if you guys know the lineage of the Fantasy Network and Bend the Knee connection, but I was just a lonely listener all them years ago. And gods, I was strong, man. That's the only bad thing about House of the Dragon, is that Mark Addy's
There is no Robert Baratheon.
The
Sorry,
Rogar was a G.
Yeah.
But we connected over the show in the books. That's how we got going, and that's how I kind of ended up starting my channel. Is like I was just so fired up constantly. I said I need to talk more. Apparently,
yeah, you did. You definitely did. You had to get that out. You got to get that out. But no, man, that's the thing. I mean, we're looking forward to that. That's what I was kind of hitting at that earlier. It's like, let the Ravens fly again. Let's talk about this. Jimmy's going to be on everywhere. We're going to be talking about the show, going over it. Fantasy is going to be going crazy. Fantasy Network will be doing, stuff over there. It's cool. It's just so much fun to have that hype back. I'm going to be starting up a new school year. So it's like going back into the school year. Oh my God. That's just showing Robert Baratheon just being a king.
That's like my favorite. It's like my favorite Game of Thrones picture.
Yeah,
It's like Robert Baratheon.
my favorite character in all of Westeros.
Yeah.
Will we have a Robert Baratheon like character in the show who just yells, "Bring me more wine"?
I certainly hope so. I
Hopefully it's mushroom.
Hammered drunk.
Yeah. Who knows?
Let's go, man.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, there's like basically a 2-hour stream. I know we got interrupted there for a little bit, which I will be bringing up at the Warner Brothers shareholder meeting.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
And let me tell you this: if they keep doing it, I'm going to vote that the CEO's not getting a freaking
Maserati.
They ain't getting a bonus, which is something that's happened a lot lately. Is actually CEOs have been getting denied bonuses a lot, like millions and millions of dollars, because the retail shareholders like us are out there saying, no, we want that money. So just keep it up is what I'm giving a warning. You've been warned. Okay.
That's great.
Robert Baratheon laser eyes. Okay. That's what I got to say.
Hey, thanks everybody who hung out with us. We had a ton of people in here tonight. It was good. Appreciate everybody popping in, man. This is cool.
Absolutely.
And giving Jimmy all that love. Be sure to check him out. Fantasy Network.
Yeah,
over there.
I'll be with these guys live, and I'll also be doing probably like weekly videos, just kind of recapping my thoughts and where the show's going and stuff like that. And then on top of that, I do a bunch of book stuff over there. So feel free to come over and find your next fantasy read. There's a lot of good stuff out there.
Yeah, actually, and I've been thinking about this. I've talked about it with Ez. Jimmy, I want to get you and a guest probably of your choice, since you have a lot of booktube people. I think it'd be fun to do an episode for our very Game of Thrones centered readers on like fantasy books they would like after reading Game of Thrones. Like what's that next sort of natural?
Got you. That's my whole channel. That's my
I know, man.
Let's do it.
I think it'd be a fun. I think it'd be a fun live stream if we could maybe get Philip or Alex.
Oh man, let's do it. I mean, we can really get some talent on the roster, and we can do a Shark Tank episode where we pitch you guys this year. I mean,
wow. And we just sit back and like, okay, yeah. Sure. I'm out. Perfect. Awesome. All right. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you everybody for coming and hanging out. We really appreciate it. As Jimmy said, we'll be back. We'll be talking more House of the Dragon. We'll be talking Lord of the Rings too, because I am excited for that show. I'm obviously not as excited for it as I am with House of the Dragon, but I mean, this is a Game of Thrones channel, obviously. So nonetheless, with that, guys, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And remember that House of the Dragons is coming in 30 days.
1 month.